It's hard to keep a secret. There's a biblical saying that there's nothing hidden which won't be made known, and nothing veiled which won't be brought to light. This is the way of the world. Time declassifies everything. Not even white lies escape. Secrecy can be charged with a sacred aura. It is associated with silence and reverence. Its root meaning, from the Latin secernere, means to be segregated or set apart. Setting apart certain information for intended use is not peculiarly Gnostic. In fact, it's a human universal, practiced by all sorts of people and groups. The social process of secrecy is often more important than the content of a secret. A secret itself could be utterly boring, like hens lay eggs, or at night, all cows are black. But even a boring secret, if kept from others, generates interest, and its revelation can evoke wonder. I'm Dr. David Litwa, and on this channel we explore the Greco-Roman world, early Christianity, and Gnosis. I want to invite all of you to become part of my Gnosis Academy, which is your one-stop spot for gaining access to my courses. A new course is released every 2 months, and you also gain access to a monthly hangout with me. So please come join, support me. I'll see you there. Secrecy as a social act is an intentional plan to keep certain information secret. Assumed here is that outsiders know the secret, but they don't know its contents. That's what generates the curiosity. A secret kept without anyone knowing it exists is socially worthless. A secret is secret, of course, but the act of secrecy must be proclaimed from the rooftops. A secret held by a group is powerful because it makes joining the group attractive. People join a group to learn its secrets. Subsequently, secrecy becomes the invisible tie that holds the group together. Group members are bound by secrecy, united in their effort to keep something quiet. In ancient times, mystery cults created memberships almost solely united by the need to keep a secret. In classical Athens, a person could be tried and executed for revealing the Eleusinian mysteries, even unwittingly. These awesome rites were thought to have been revealed directly by the goddess Demeter, and it was not possible to proclaim them. A secret in a mystery cult was not often a proposition or belief, it was an experience, a new drama, scene acted out, or the vision of a ritual object. Although he was wrong in his details, Tertullian's rhetoric conveys something of what was experienced in those Eleusinian mysteries. Quote, "They torture the initiates before they enroll them, instructing the higher initiates for 5 years beforehand, so that they mold their thought by the suspension of knowledge, and so seem to heighten reverence to the degree that they create yearning. Then comes the duty of silence. What took so long to find is closely guarded. All the divinity, however, lies in their secret recesses, in the common gasp of full initiates. This is the entire seal, stamping their tongue, a penis portrayal, unveiled." Initiates into Pythagorean societies were known for undertaking a 5-year period of pedagogical silence. In fact, Vassilidean Christians were said to have followed the same rule. But silence is not secrecy. It was only the price one paid to learn the Pythagorean secrets. In early Pythagorean, Aristoxenus wrote that not all of the doctrines of Pythagoras were meant for all people to hear. Pythagoreans took secrecy seriously. The tyrant of Sicily, Dionysius, once interrogated a Pythagorean woman named Timica. He asked her why her colleagues refused to walk on bean plants. In response, Timica slowly bit through her own tongue and spat it out rather than reveal the secret. Now, Christianity prides itself on having no secret doctrines. Supposedly, everything is out in the open, carved out in creeds and confessions. The Trinity could have been a secret teaching, yet Christians decided to announce God's irreducible threeness as their distinct doctrine, though it muddies the water of monotheism. In practice, however, Christianity has many secrets because its doctrines are like infinite wells into which one falls, never to return. There are, after all, doctrines about God, and if God is infinite, we should not be surprised if some doctrines are infinitely complex. Creeds exist, but they stand like bullet points, giving no details. Pastors and priests train for 3 years or more to learn their trade. They study old books, languages no longer spoken, and treatises written in those languages. They must be learning something while holed up in those seminaries, something that common people, so called lay people, either do not know or do not understand. Paul of Tarsus made no secret that he had secrets. Quote, "We speak a wisdom among the initiated, a hidden wisdom of God in secrecy." The secret isn't merely Christ crucified, which even rugged Roman soldiers saw, but its cosmic meaning. In the Gospels, Jesus thanks God for hiding the truth from the wise and understanding while revealing it only to children. When Christians remembered Jesus, they remembered him as speaking parables to those outside while explaining the deeper meanings to his initiates, the 12. Christians continued these practices, and that's why Celsus could perceive them as a secret society in the late 2nd century. In his day, he thought that Christians had secret teachings because they were compelled by the death penalty that hangs over them. But even when Christians were not in any danger of persecution, they continued to keep secrets. This kind of secrecy is not total or final, but it is limited, revealed, that is, to a select group. Christians, whether Gnostic or not, were united in this one belief: higher knowledge comes with initiation. There are beliefs that one states in the creed, sometimes half wittingly, but there are also divine mysteries one tells only to those who are intellectually, morally, and spiritually prepared. We can call this the esoteric factor, and there's nothing unusual about it in human societies. A teacher will teach sociology to undergrads in a completely different way than the same course taught for PhD students. A 12-year-old will learn about Jesus' miracles for First Communion, but deeper mysteries, such as how the divine Logos unites with Jesus' soul, are left to seminarians. Anti heresy writers attributed secrecy to a guilty conscience or confounded it with deception. Of course, they knew that their party kept secrets too, but they did so to preserve the truth. Their opponents, by contrast, used secrecy to trick people into becoming members. Let's listen in to that anonymous high priest whom I call the Refutator, or the author of the Refutation of All Heresies. Quote, "Most people suppose that these heretics worship God due to their silence and the concealed nature of their secret mysteries. These mysteries they hand on to initiates whose loyalty is securely confirmed. They do not profess them beforehand unless they have enslaved their devotee. They dangle him in suspense by the length of time until they see him inquisitively clinging to their promise with excessive curiosity. Then, having approved him, they initiate him, handing on the perfect rite, binding him with oaths neither to declare nor to deliver their mysteries to anyone they meet." As is well known, early Catholic churches also reserved full membership only after a period of instruction. This period of instruction preceded a rite of initiation, namely baptism. Only after this rite were people made worthy to taste of the mysteries, aka the sacraments consisting of Christ's flesh and blood. Hear this quote from Cyril of Jerusalem, a 4th century bishop who spoke to those about to be baptized. Quote, For to hear the gospel is not permitted to all, but the glory of the gospel is reserved for Christ's true children only. Therefore the Lord spoke in parables to those who could not hear, but to the disciples he explained the parables in private. For the brightness of the glory is for those who have been enlightened, the blinding for them that believe not. These mysteries, which the Church now explains to you who are passing out of the class of catechumens, it is not the custom to explain to heathen, for to a heathen we do not explain the mysteries concerning Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Not before catechumens do we speak plainly of the mysteries, but many things we often speak in a veiled way, that the believers who know may understand, and they who know not may not get hurt. So by the fourth century at least, Christianity had become a mystery cult, not only adapting the language of mysteries, but even the format of the mystery cult experience. First, there was a period of teaching or mystagogy, then a rite of purification, then an experience only meant for initiates, in this case, eating the body and blood of a god, followed by silence before outsiders as to what these mysteries, whether they be ritual or doctrinal, actually meant. It turns out that Gnostic Christians were not so different in their procedures. We can take the Valentinians, for example. When one first joined the Valentinian community, lesson one was not the deepest mysteries of the Pleroma. One entered the community like one would any other church. A reader stood up to read the Gospel of John, a favorite text for Valentinians. Then a teacher would rise to expound the text, often with an ethical focus. The end result was something like the Gospel of Truth, a profound sermon, but designed to be accessible to the average listener. To the beginner, the Gospel of Truth is a series of intriguing images. A more advanced student naturally would see and reflect on the deeper truths evoked by these images. These deeper truths are the secrets hidden in plain sight. As seems clear today, the Valentinian Pleroma was based in part on Neo-Pythagorean mathematics. Only a few people had the educational background to understand this. The Valentinian doctrine of the Pleroma was secret, not in the sense that it couldn't be understood by all, but that in practice it was not, because so few people were prepared to grasp its background assumptions. Only people with advanced philosophical training, who were practiced in reading methods and allegory, could approach these mysteries. And these were men and women who met with teachers like Ptolemy, student of Valentinus, who discussed the deep topics in their regular seminars. These seminars were not public, but private, designed for higher initiates, in the same sense that a PhD graduate seminar is not public, but private. Of course, it might be true that some Valentinian teachers, such as Marcus, spoke more freely of esoteric topics to promote themselves as a knowledgeable teacher. Marcus seems to have wanted to impress people with his deeper knowledge, and so spoke of entities in the Pleroma such as silence and grace. It's not clear how much explanation he offered his followers in the large group setting, but it was not the explanation that mattered so much in this setting. Rather, it was about gaining authority, amplifying emotion, and what we call the wow factor. But not all Valentinian teachers were so flashy. Ptolemy, in his letter to Flora, spoke of certain teachings aimed at a beginner's level of understanding, but he invited her to go deeper, to be initiated further, to enter another level of membership in which secret, that is, non-public, but still apostolic teachings would be revealed. Secret apostolic traditions were not only a thing among Gnostics, but among the architects of orthodoxy. For instance, Basil of Caesarea, who flourished in the mid-4th century, remarked that among the doctrines and proclamations kept in the church, some were received from written teaching, and some were transmitted secretly from the apostolic tradition. Unquote. Gnostic groups were not secret societies. Secrecy was not their primary reason for being, and it was not the only factor providing social cohesion to their societies. Gnostics had secrets, of course, but so did early Catholics and most other Christian groups. Gnostic secrets were not public, obviously, but they were not impossible to access either. Competing Valentinian teachers wrote down their theories of the Pleroma. When something is written down, published in the ancient sense, the secret is made public. Now, a published secret is an oxymoron. The secret becomes open for any eyes, including uninitiated eyes. But things written down can still be secret due to their limited circulation. But limiting the circulation of a text took effort. Texts are like ornery children, they are impossible in the end to control. Once copied, they don't belong to the author anymore, but to anyone who obtains a copy. When reading Irenaeus, one may get the impression that Christianity 101 for Valentinians was learning about the 30 aeons pairing off in the pleroma. But clearly that was not the case. Ptolemy shows in his introductory letter to Flora that he did not care to mention the pleroma or the aeons at all. One can reasonably guess why he did so. To the uninitiated, mysteries can seem silly or funny. The Hermetist spoke of the mystery of sex done behind closed doors. He acknowledged that if anyone actually saw people having sex publicly, they would burst out laughing. For Irenaeus, the mysteries of the pleroma were nothing more amazing than the growing of gourds and pumpkins. Out of hostility, he delighted in defiling the Valentinian mysteries, exposing them to view. That's why reading heresiology is like watching a crime unfold. The crime is the revelation of secrets meant to be kept secret. Hans Jonas spoke of Gnostics gleefully misinterpreting the Jewish scriptures. It seems to me that the heresiologists were the ones gleeful in their transgression, the transgression of revealing the secrets of their opponents. How Irenaeus got hold of Valentinian mysteries remains a mystery. Tertullian remarks on how Valentinians guarded their doctrine. Quote, not even to their own disciples do they entrust their secrets. It's quite possible that Irenaeus got hold of Valentinian documents by gaining the trust of Valentinians in Lyon or at Rome. If so, his expose was a violation of trust. Valentinian insiders did not intend their literature to be shared, but Irenaeus published it anyway, not in its original form, but in the form of hostile paraphrases spiced with intervening attacks. In the Nag Hammadi library, we have even more secrets revealed. In fact, publishing the Nag Hammadi books, in a sense, defiles the mysteries. Some of these textual mysteries are so old and so obscure, we still don't know what they mean. What we do know is that these books were at some point kept secret, and whoever hid them knew that. Even in their initial settings, many of the Nag Hammadi books seem to have been designed for an insider readership. The way these books are written also kept them from being widely read. It might have taken years of initiation to be able to read and to understand the mystical musings of Marsanes. And frankly, the same is true today in the sense that it takes years to understand this text's linguistic, philosophical, and religious background. By reading Nag Hammadi literature, we can see how the trope of secrecy actually played out among Gnostics. The Gospel of Thomas reveals secret sayings that the living Jesus spoke. The Gospel of Philip is a hidden discourse of declaration. The author of the secret book of James directly says that the content of his book should not be shared with many people, since not even all the apostles had access to it. The secret book of John codes itself as a mystery and is offered in a mysterious manner. The author of this book issues a final warning, trying to prevent the book from being bought and sold on the common market. Warnings about who should and who should not read a book are designed to keep a book within the right community of readers. At the same time, the practical effect of secrecy is not actually to keep people at bay, but to heighten curiosity and attract more potential readings. A book called The Secret Book of John is simply begging to be opened. If an author can make the reader feel just a little bit transgressive, that's further motivation to keep reading. And some secret books are designed to be revealed. An apocalypse literally means a revelation. A revelation of what? Well, presumably some sort of secret or not previously revealed knowledge. The writer of an apocalypse intends to reveal secret or previously unknown knowledge, and she or he probably aims for the broadest readership possible. Authors of an apocalypse presumably aren't offended when their work widely circulates, and there aren't just Gnostic apocalypses, of course, but canonical ones too. Although it took many generations of debate, an apocalypse did make it into the New Testament, which greatly expanded its readership. And we might justly call the latter half of the book of Daniel the Daniel Apocalypse. It is the case that secrecy presumes a kind of differential knowledge. Those with the secrets are different. Often the difference can be expressed in terms of greater power or superiority, but this is not necessarily the case. Secrecy distinguishes an us from a them, but more often, secrets distinguish a smaller us within a greater us, an inner circle within the outer circle of membership. Secrecy functions to strengthen the identity of the inner core. The metaphor of an inner circle is important because it grades people horizontally, not vertically. In hierarchical organizations, there are, of course, higher ups and underlings. In horizontal organizations, there are inner and outer circles, a core group surrounded by peripheral members. Accordingly, if we say that Gnostics were elitist, they were elitist often in the sense that almost every organization is elitist. Core members keep some information undisclosed, and for this reason, they are seen as special, different, and in some cases, higher up on the social ladder. But elitism can be soft or hard. In hard elitism, there's a kind of caste system in which one finds oneself by nature, so that one is prohibited from gaining access to secret knowledge. But in soft elitism, there's an upward and downward mobility based on knowledge gained and expertise. One attains different grades within the society by moving along a path of initiation. This is the same elitism we actually see in the military. When one signs up, one doesn't become a general, but with years of perseverance, one can command whole armies and the secrets of those armies. Despite heresiological accusations, most Gnostic elitism seems to have been soft, since everyone in theory could follow the path of initiation and attain the secret, because everyone has the divine spark. By analogy, anyone in America today with some cash and time can get a PhD, but very few do because it's a lot of hard work and arguably a form of self torture. Besides, why would one want a PhD when you have channels like mine? Gnostic secrets are typically not dark, but strategic. It's not like when we discover the secret, we find Gnostics killing babies or committing grossly immoral acts. Instead, we find them doing what most people with secrets do, using them to heighten interest, to form group cohesion, to distinguish between members, to control the flow of information, and so on. Did Gnostics tell secrets? Yes. Is secrecy a uniquely Gnostic trait? Hardly. It's one of those traits that Gnostics shared with their early Catholic opponents. Gnostics and early Catholics simply had different secrets and different ways of keeping those secrets. Both parties called their secrets apostolic and imagined that their secrets went all the way back to Jesus. Both parties used secrecy to encourage new members to join, to bind together already baptized members, and to distinguish between members, laypersons, deacons, teachers, priests, bishops, and so forth. Secrecy is a wonderful thing and a terrible thing, depending on how you use it. And not all who tell secrets are trying to hide a crime. In fact, many people keep secrets to fight crime and to prevent a crime from happening. Even God keeps secrets, and some pretty basic ones too, such as whether he exists.